Hola, mi nombre es Angélica Bernabé, soy la directora del Centro Especializado en Tartamudez aquí en Perú y hoy estoy junto a Barry Guitar. Él es un terapeuta de habla especializado en tartamudez, famoso y reconocido mundialmente por sus grandes aportes en esta área. Él ha sido profesor en University of Vermont y también es súper conocido por haber escrito el libro Stuttering, An Integrated Approach to Its Nature and Treatment, que justo el año pasado ha lanzado su quinta edición, así que vamos a conversar un poco con él sobre eso, sobre algunos otros proyectos que tiene en mente y también sobre su vida en sí, porque él también es una persona con tartamudez que ha aportado y aportado muchas cosas en esta área. So, thank you so much, I'm very happy.
I'm very pleased to be here.
Thank you. So today, of course, we will talk about stuttering, and well, we know that you, just like me, are also a person who stutter, and you are a speech and language pathologist who work on this area for your whole life, I think. And you bring a lot of new concepts, new ideas. So my first question is, what's your relationship with your stuttering now compared when you just start working on this some years ago?
Yeah, it's a very, very different relationship. I was afraid of my stuttering, when I was a child. Sometimes people would tease me. Sometimes I would feel very ashamed of my stuttering and try to hide it. And well, you know what that's like. You change words around, or if somebody says, "Oh, do you want to be in this play? Do you want to have a part in a play?" I'd say no. And so there are a lot of opportunities I missed because I stuttered, and I just, I didn't want to stutter. I just, what I didn't want people to know about it. So now I like to stutter because it actually feels like I have a little victory. So like, I'm just going to do a pretend stutter, I think. So like if I stutter, I'm very, that feels all right. I would rather have a stutter that I handle well than be fluent. And so I often look for opportunities to introduce people. I don't know if, I think for most of us who stutter, introducing one person to another person, saying all the names, it's a bit challenging. But I look for opportunities now to do it in hopes that I have a stutter that I can, do like this.
Yeah. I also have that sometimes, and it's and it's quite curious because just like you some years ago, the last thing I wanted to do was to stutter. And now when I have some periods of times when I don't stutter, it's like, or stutter just a little bit, it's like, what, I'm not stuttering. And then when I stutter again, it's like, oh, there you are. Like that. Yeah, it's crazy how it's part of our life, and now we want it like this.
Yeah. It's been, sometimes it's something like you think it's your worst thing, and now it's our best thing.
Yeah, it it gave us a lot, and that is related to my next question, and is, what are the positive things that you learned from your own stuttering?
Yeah, positive things that I've learned. Yeah, I think there are lots of things, but one is, at first, when I tried to get help for my stuttering, I didn't get very good help. It was not Ben Riper, it was somebody else. And, and so, but I persisted, So I think one thing I learned is you can get really good at something if you keep working at it. And so then when I worked with Van Riper, of course, my whole world changed. He was, he was comfortable with stuttering. He put it in his own speech. as an example or whatever. Okay, that whatever was a real stutter. And so anyway, I learned about persistence. I learned that, that I'm okay. I think a lot of that I'm okay was coming from Van Riper. He had a way of making you feel like he understood you. He could see into your heart, into your mind, and he radiated the feeling you're okay as you are. And that changed my life. And so once I felt okay, I mean, how it is, sometimes you feel more okay, sometimes less okay, but in any case, I was feeling more and more okay. So my stutter has led me to that feeling. And I think also because I stutter and I feel okay about it, it helps me relate to other people who have difficulties. If I meet somebody with cerebral palsy, I have some understanding of how they feel, and I want to radiate that it's all fine. I mean, it's difficult, but you're still a good person, whether you have cerebral palsy or cleft palate or whatever else. So that's good. It's made me more sympathetic. Yeah. So those are some things that my stuttering has helped me with.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like we experience how is, I don't know, feel discriminated or teased, and now we have those feelings inside, so we try to help others if they have stuttering or even other kind of conditions. So yeah, that's a really good thing. I also can see that from my stuttering. The empathy, and as you say, to be resilient about the kind of challenges we can have in our life is like, after working on my stutter for years and be where we are now, it's like, okay, we can do whatever.
Yeah, we can do anything. Yeah.
And you were talking about Van Riper, and well, for those people who is still, or who's just learning about stuttering, he was one of the first one who started to study stuttering in the USA. He did a lot of things. He he showed us different way to treat stuttering. He did a lot of things, and Van Riper was the therapist of Barry guitar, and I know that now you are currently working on a biography of him. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, he just has been so inspiring to me as a person. I mean, he died 20 years ago or something, but I still go back and read all his stuff. And so as I work on the biography, it's been quite fascinating because I've been able to talk to some of his children, to his grandchildren, to people who knew him years ago, who like worked with him and his wife, like handymen. I don't know if you know that term, but these are people who didn't even stutter, but they were vastly influenced by Van Riper because they worked at his farm, and Van Riper made them feel really good about themselves. And so I have interviews lined up. So I will fly to Kalamazoo next spring and interview a lot of people. And so just the process of, trying to contact the children, his grandchildren, his friends, people who knew him, that's been fascinating. And then also, when I was treated by Van Riper in the 1960s, it was in a group of, there must have been like six of us. And so I've been trying to contact all of those people to see if their experiences were like mine. And just for example, one person that I have been in contact with that I haven't seen for 50 years or something, but in any case, we've talked on the phone, Zoom, other things, and I will visit him in the spring. But I said, well, how did Van Riper influence you? And he said, well, he was such a generous person that he said, after I got my fluency, I then became a teacher. I went off and got advanced degrees, PhD, and he actually got his PhD in psychology, so he's a psychologist. But he said, I was teaching a class, and there was a man in the class who was doing very badly, but I knew I knew he was smart, but his grades were not good. And it turns out he was from, I think, Saudi Arabia or somewhere in the Middle East. And because of Van Riper's generosity, my friend, Tom, was very generous toward this young man. And he helped him. He met with him. He encouraged him. He did so much to help him change his grades, be very successful in the class. And then he lost touch with him. And years later, this man, now an adult, called him up from New York City and said, I'm in New York City because I am, now I've lost the term. He said, now I'm head of the, it's a term we all know. He's head of the oil producing countries. This man was now the head of it. And so he invited my friend Tom over to the Middle East. And it was because Van Riper had influenced Tom to be open and encouraging to other people. And Tom said that was a profound influence he had on his life. Just that, that faith that Van Riper had in you. You could feel it. You could feel Van Riper feel like, you can do it, Barry. You can do it. You've got the goods. I'm with you. I'm next to you. And so I often feel like Van Riper is still with me. Yeah. So another thing I could say about it is I'm trying to understand what was Van Riper's magic, because he really was magic. And I'm trying to understand, like why and how. And some other interesting things about Van Riper's life is he was a very severe stutterer as a child, and his father was a doctor, and his father was very hard on him because I think his father felt, oh, I'm a doctor. I should not have a son who stutters. I should be able to help him. And so it made the father feel bad. And then the father was very hard on Van Riper. And so Van Riper, because he stuttered so hard, would spend a lot of time out in the forest and, getting to know nature and feeling comfortable with nature and animals and things like that. That whenever his life would get hard, he would go out in the forest and, camp out and live in the forest for several days, and then he would feel better. And so that was a part of Van Riper I didn't really know until I started, looking into people's stories about him and things like that. So I'm looking for what was the magic.
Yeah, and that's very interesting because he influenced you, so you did all the things you did, and at the same time you are influenced other speech and language pathologists or people who wants to be a speech and language pathologist like me. So that's very interesting. Do you have any idea when the book or the biography will be published next year?
Probably the year after that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Angélica, I suddenly thought of the name of the oil group. It's called OPEC. Have you heard of OPEC?
No. I think
it's called Oil Producers of America or something like that. Anyway, it's a famous group of people who decide the price of oil. And so this man, because of Tom's encouragement, became the head of it.
Yeah, it's crazy how now we can see more people having like big positions on company, or just Joe Biden, who is also a person who started, and it's so close to be president, and it's like everybody's like, a person who started is going to be president to the USA.
That's going to be great. And did you see that video of that 13-year-old?
Yeah. And I also say that teenager it's doing like some speaks to other teenagers who stutter, and that's so great. Like, he's so young, and that's amazing.
Yeah.
To see a 13 years old teenager speaking without confidence.
Yeah, being open about it. Yeah.
Yeah, the first time I talked about my stuttering in front of people was when I was 19 or 20, probably. And when
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
this, it's like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, impressive. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is another question, and it's, well, you are a person who stutters. You also work on the clinical area as a speech and language pathologist, and sometimes some adults or parents, they don't feel much confidence when they
Mhm.
see that the therapist is also a person who stuttered,
Mhm.
because they have some misinformation. So what can you tell to those people?
Yeah. Um, I mean, I think like you, I've had challenges where parents will say, "How can you help my child? You stutter." And I say, "Well, I understand how your child feels, and I've been able to work with my stuttering, so it's not a problem anymore. And because I understand your child may get some strength from me, because your child will see me and realize that I was able to overcome a problem, and that may inspire your child to then feel like I can do this too." And so I think it's the same with an adult. I mean, there are many, many, many wonderful therapists, stuttering therapists, who don't stutter. So you don't have to stutter to be a good stuttering therapist, but you have to be empathetic. You have to be understand the person deeply to put your heart where their heart is, and uh, but you can do that maybe more easily as a person who stutters, um, and I've especially noticed the benefit of stuttering when I work with children who stutter. So first there's the parents, and they're like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I don't know if I want a stutterer to help my child." And then the parents gradually realized, "Oh, Barry stutters and he's good at it, and he's, it doesn't get it. So maybe my child can get that way." And so I think that's helpful to parents. And I must say, it is so rewarding, whether you're a person who stutters or not. It's so rewarding to help children and adults who stutter, because when a person is stuttering a lot at first and they don't have any help, they feel ashamed and other things. But when you can change their life, I mean, you really change their lives. And I've had so many people come back to me and tell me, about that. And so parents will say to me, "Thank you for giving me my child back." Because here, the child has age 2, or suddenly the child is stuttering, and the child becomes more distant, doesn't talk, isn't spontaneous, and the parent feels like they've lost their child. And then the speech therapist comes and helps them, and the parent feels like, "You have given me my child back." And so,
Yeah.
so that's so rewarding. I mean, I know working with all different disorders is rewarding, but there are few disorders like stuttering where you can change the whole person's life. And sometimes you can do it in a day or two, but more often it takes months. Um,
Yeah.
the rewards of being a speech therapist, speech language pathologist, are so profound. It makes you feel like, wow, I'm changing people's lives.
Yeah, and it's crazy because we also feel that grateful with the person who helped us. That's
Yeah.
what I feel with Gonzalo, for example. He was the first person who said, "Okay, this is your brain. This is what it happened."
Mhm.
He tried voluntary stuttering with me on the streets. He
Oh, wow.
told me about the importance of my thoughts, to all that kind of things,
Yeah.
and I'm very grateful because I mean, that was maybe 6 or 7 years
Mhm.
ago, and I used to say, one day I want to be as like that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's I'm always going to remember that, and how he helped me to feel better, to and yeah,
Yeah.
they're the kind of things that we are not going to forget.
Yeah, yeah. And I think Gonzalo is a good example because he doesn't stutter. He never
Yeah,
has. But yet he
yeah,
has the feeling. He has the empathy. He has the ability to make you feel like he understands you.
yeah, exactly. So you don't have to be a person who stutters to be a good speech and language pathologist, but yeah, you really need to have a lot of empathy to can and understand what we are feeling,
Mhm.
or things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And I have one more question.
Mhm.
And well, when I started doing this kind of interviews to expert, I was thinking, in speech and language pathologists, because they are also interested on watching the expert of stuttering. But then I realized that there are a lot of people who stutter who also watch these videos, and that's great. That's amazing because they feel good, because I always want to send a positive message, and so
Mhm.
they can also keep something with that after this video. So, well, knowing this, my last question is going to be, what advice could you give to those who stutter, who are on this journey, who are still feeling some fear, shame, and that kind of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I would say to those of you viewers who stutter that Angélica and myself have both found out that you can really become fluent. You would feel so good about your stuttering, you almost welcome it when it comes. But it takes a lot of hard work, and some of the work is pushing yourself to be open about the stuttering. Like the more you can mention it to your friends, or if you're stuck in a block, if you can say, oh, there's a, like, oops, hang on a minute, let me work on that word, my name is Barry, or something, just being open and keeping eye contact with the person. I was talking to somebody the other day who said the most profound thing that he learned in therapy that helped his stuttering was eye contact. That when he talked to someone, whether he was stuttering or not, he tried to keep eye contact with the person he was talking to, and that helped him feel confident. It's like, as you know, like in an animal, in a pack of wolves or something, the lead powerful wolf will look at the other wolves. So it makes you feel confident when you are stuttering and you keep good eye contact.
Yeah, there are a lot of things that we also would like to add to, because yeah, it's a process and can take years.
Yeah.
And I mean, for some people, it will be really fast, but to me at least, it took me years to talk with this confidence, and you
Mhm.
know and I know it's the same. I know that there are a lot of people who stutter who are still trying to fight with this, and
Mhm.
it's crazy because the more you fight, the more you try to hide it, the more
Mhm.
difficult it becomes. So
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Could you say that again? It's so important, Angelica. Say that one more time.
The more you try to fight with it, to hide it, the more difficult it becomes. So we
Perfect.
need to be open and about it. Even it
Yeah.
sounds crazy because very, at the beginning, it's like, why I want to talk about this? I want to hide it. It's like,
Yeah.
no, there's no way. But no, it's the best thing we can do. It feels
Yeah.
like relief, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So thank you very. It was very nice to have the chance to talk with you, and I know that a lot of people will watch this video because you are also famous here in South America in this stuttering world. So thank you
Oh.
so much.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to reach out and maybe touch some people.
Yeah. So, well, muchas gracias a ustedes por ver este video. Espero que les haya gustado y que se puedan quedar con algo de lo que hemos conversado hoy día. Los invito a suscribirse porque se vienen más videos con otras personas especialistas en el área. Y muchas gracias por ver este video.